Plugin of the week comes from Kazrog. It's the Avalon AD2055 and AD2077. These are two hardware emulations dating back, in the first case, the 2055, to late 90s, about 1997, and then the mastering version of this Class A hardware EQ coming out in 2002. These are two high-end EQs that were really designed, in the first case here, the 2055, is like a mix bus EQ. Very clean, lots of headroom, low noise. That was the sort of selling point of it. Now, I have a lot of personal experience with the 2055, particularly using it for Whitney's vocals, Whitney Houston, that is. And so a lot of my use for that, use for background vocals, I found a lot of use for this, so I really love this EQ. It's a really amazing one. I remember when it came out, we put this in the rack. They also have a couple of other ones that are, well, obviously the all-in-one channel strip is used in a lot of hip-hop and R&B studios. But this EQ I have always liked the most of them, for sure. The mastering grade one, basically what and the primary difference is that the boost attenuation is not as broad, where you get like 32 dB of booster attenuation here on the AD2055. The mastering version will give you detented positions, plus minus, and the range is closer to 10 dB rather than 30 dB. So, you get a bit more of a, studio use, in-studio use for some more aggressive equalization, as opposed to a mastering use, which is a little bit more polishing. Both sound amazing, and Kazrog always does an amazing job. So when I saw this, I picked it up right away, as I always do. So many of their plugins are a regular part of my signal flow chain that this one is certainly worth adding to it. In its basic design, they're both 4-band EQs. The high band and the low band here, the two end bands in the frequency spectrum, are passive EQs, and the two mid bands are active EQs. So that's the first part of it. You basically have your boost points all at the top. You could put the channel 1 EQ in or out. The gain range is dependent upon which section that you're looking at. So you have the most amount of gain here on the low shelf and the high shelf. Those can be made bell curve just by clicking on to the bell curve here. The boost attenuation here for this section also has some other unique features. You have the full range of frequency selections here for each of them, and then there's a times 10 switch. So this would give you a range, instead of going down to like 35 hertz, right, with a nice Q there to get you narrow for like a tight kick drum sound or something, or wider if you're looking for something more broader. It extends the range up, instead of to 450, to 4.5K. Right, so you have a full range from 33 up to 4.5K. This will go from 160, so already a lot of overlap just right there. And then there's a times 10 on this as well, right? So if you're at 250 here, then you're at 25K. So that gives you pretty much a full spectrum just in the mid-range bands, from sub-frequencies all the way up above our hearing range. And with the width controls, right? So these are all, this just gives you variable control here. As we go down to the mastering version, the only primary difference is that everything will be in detented positions. Everything else goes straightforward here. There's a lock to make the left and right channel connected to each other. When that's in, you'll see that this is grayed out. When it's out, the channels can be operated independently. Otherwise, the controls are identical over on this side. There's some additional features here. You can switch the graphic user interface to show you. The original one came out in the silver face that you see here, but they did come out with a black version of it, which is quite cool. All right, I'm keeping the two of them separate with those different designs, because they're both set up that way, just so I can distinguish them quickly and easily. there are some processing options. One is entropy. So the entropy is kind of a cool feature in that what it does is it gives you some variance between the left and the right channel. And there are a few manufacturers that have some options that are like this. I happen to really like the way that they do it here. It doesn't cause any phase issues or anything like that. But when you AB it, you get just like a little bit more space, and that not all the electronic components are going to be identical to each other. There obviously are tolerances, and in a pure Class A design, those tolerances are going to be tighter, particularly in the mastering version. But it does give you some options there. So maybe we'll do a quick AB on that. Wet-dry control, if you want to do like a parallel EQ, and or just automate, a fade in with a particular type of EQ where you have an EQ to sort of with one sound, and then you can do the wet dry to do sort of a transformation from one EQ to the to no EQ. Output gain, right, just to make up on the output. And then a bypass that is latency compensated. So I'll try my best to use it. I know I always use the one up here and everybody complains, and rightfully so. Bad habits. The mastering version adds some additional features. So we have the boost attenuation, but we're in stepped increments as you go here. There are 1 dB increments on the high shelf and low shelf. Again, that can be turned into a peak dip, right? So that will give you basically the bell curve variation. If we select the range times 2, then what that will do is it will make this 2 dB increments instead of 1 dB increments. Now the numbers on the graphic here don't change, just exactly like the hardware, but you see the little pop-up, and that shows you the difference there. The two mid-parametric, full parametric EQs also have a 2 times range control, right? So these go in half dB steps, top to bottom, so that will make them 1 dB steps. So instead of 5 dB, you'd have plus minus 10 dB. Here you have plus minus 20 dB with the 2 times in. So both of those have that. You have a similar kind of thing here with the bell curve width, except for, or the Q width, whatever you want to call it. And you have stepped increments, right? So basically the mastering grade version giving you discrete steps for each one makes it replicable in hardware form. And they just duplicated that here perfectly in this emulation with Kazrog. More frequency selections, far more frequency selections here than what you have on the AD2055. And then you also get the 10 times range. So this goes down to 12 hertz, up to 400, so that would go up to 4K. This starts at 140, so a lot of overlap there, and with the times 10, bringing you up to 25K. So you got a lot of range in there. Again, you can operate in stereo, or if that's in, meaning that you can do this separated out in left channel and right channel if you need to adjust the EQ independently. Otherwise, in stereo mode, this section will gray out. It's identical to the one on the left, but basically this will control both sides. Same parameters here, right, that you have on the other one. Same look to make it the silver or black, and same basic settings here. Now oversampling actually in this is automatically set based on the capabilities of your system and available processing power. It'd be nice to have a little bit of control over that, but maybe that's just the way to make the most sense, that it's always working and you're not fighting to get 16 times oversampling and your computer just can't handle it. Okay, so let's kind of do a quick, I'm just going to bypass this one and kind of do a quick EQ here. I just have an instrumental set up here, and I just wanted to kind of show the differences between the two quickly, and do just kind of a quick EQ job. Nothing too complicated. Again, you could take this and use it on vocals, on drums, on anything else, but it is primarily designed as a mix bus EQ, and so that's kind of the way I have it laid out here, and that's the way I'm going to approach it, which would be very similar to what you might do in a mastering situation. All right, so let's see. Let's start by trying to add a little air on top of this and see what we can get out of that. So that's at 25K, by the way, right? That's shelving EQ. I'll just stay with just some of the air frequencies rather than doing like, I wanted to see if like a broad shelf would kind of help that, but let's do this. I'm going to take this, kind of do something here, do a little bit of a dip down here on the shelf on the low end, right? So remember, these are passive, right? The two end bands are passive EQ. Really, you know, like I would say like a great way of opening up the sound of a mix. Particularly, I've always liked the kind of air frequency end of this, sort of pushing up at that top end, way up at that 25K, basically giving you like a tilt EQ up on the top end, more or less, as you get into the, you know, slope or Q, which is pretty broad on this. All right, let's go take a look at the mastering grade version, right? So, and we could try a similar type of thing. Let's just see kind of what we got here with this. So maybe I'll start with let's just kind of do a comparison, see if I can somewhat duplicate what I've done up here. Right. Minus 2.4. All right, let's see. Well, I'm not going to get exactly there. I ended up at 70. I would probably do 60 if that was available here. And then what did I do here? There it is. 2.4 again. I don't know what it is with that. All right, let's go with that. Right. So I think you can hear how the 2055 is a more aggressive sound, right? So where there's a much smoother characteristic to the mastering version, the 2077. So they have distinct differences. Now, of course, the frequencies and everything aren't matched exactly, but you can hear the difference in character from them, right? And which is why I guess they did both of them and give you them both as a package, right? For an option to decide which version of it you need. I prefer the 2077 in this particular case, but it may be when you really want to dig into a specific sound and kind of really kind of get more aggressive with the EQ, that the 2055 is going to be a better way to kind of dig into it. There's a like a kind of warmer, purer character to the mastering grade version than there is to the 2055. Now, I have no personal experience with the 2077. This sounds just like what I remember from the 2055 in hardware form that I've used. So I think they've captured that incredibly well. And then whether you like it or not, I guess is dependent upon whether you like the Avalon gear or not. I never liked the channel strip, and there were people who absolutely loved it and thought it was like a critical part of the sound, particularly for a lot of hip hop and R&B records, with the U87 that seemed to be like the classic formula. This I really loved and used a lot, in particular on a lot of the Whitney Houston sessions when she got it in her personal studio where I did a lot of work, or most of my work with her. There you have it. Kazrog always makes great stuff. Definitely worth checking out for sure. And at minimum, checking out and doing a demo. Everything from Kazrog I just pick up immediately. They're always amazing. They always knock it out of the park, and this one is no exception. Plugin of the week from Kazrog: Avalon AD2055 and AD2077.